Hello, my name is David, and I'm afraid of Americans. Well. I need September. This is part 2 of working on the patch jacket because I deserve a break from everything else that I've been working on, and I don't know if you can relate, but working on something for myself feels like a break even if I'm using all of the same muscles, and I am probably being a stereotype right now. If you haven't seen the first video, I will link it down in the caption. Essentially, for a very long time, I have wanted my own patch jacket, but after some failed experiments with a pre-made denim jacket, trying to make it the color that I wanted it to be, I realized I should probably just make my own. So I found a pattern that was pretty close to what I wanted and did some remixing. So the shell, as well as the lining that wasn't in the original pattern, has been sitting around for... Time is an illusion, don't ask me that again. And if you haven't seen this channel before, it will illustrate very quickly that I have very strong color preferences, which I am not ashamed of. Essentially, this is finishing off the actual basis of the jacket and then breaking out the patches that I have been sitting on for a while. And the buttons that I am eyeballing to actually put on it are not something I can afford right now. They're not super expensive, but sometimes I window shop on Etsy and some other handmade marketplace type of stuff, and I don't check the location. So right now I can't order anything from the UK. Huge reason for this channel existing in the first place is to empower people to feel way more confident in traditional skills and using traditional skills to do things in new ways, new, actually interesting ways. Because, long story short, I have a background in very, very American traditional But I am no longer in that sphere of the world, but I do really like that I have still a basis in those skills. So because I am at the place where I am in my life, I like to stick a lot of traditional things in a blender and do new things with it. I have been working on so much stuff and I just wanted to feel fancy. But it's ridiculously hot. Like I said, I need September. And in the meantime, I'm gonna be making stuff. Here we go. Previous videos, particularly the sewing ones. Oh, can you see that? Let me see. Okay, a little bit better. You want to use symmetry to your advantage, and particularly like in plushies and the average shirt. Not every single piece of clothing is going to be the same, but the average construction, you want to use the symmetry of the collar to your advantage. So if you fold this in half, and then you fold this in half, you'll know exactly the center, and then everything else should fall into place. And because I'm not doing this on like a big flat area, what I'm actually gonna do is finagle this closed first, because this isn't gonna go all the way to the edges unless I already fold down the button band. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. This is probably what's making some people scream here, but let me actually do this. If you don't have a lot of space and you need to just make absolutely sure that something fits, let's do that anyway. So starting with the back, finding, well, yeah, finding the even sides. So the back is here. How to sew on a train 101. I kid. So if you remember from last video, this is not completely sewn down. So I want to pick a side, whichever one's going on the inside, whichever one's going on the outside. Match it up here as specifically as possible and only pin down the one side. Because like in the shirt sewing video that was a while ago, you know, this gets sewn and then the seam allowance gets flipped up into the inside. This gets flipped around and then hand sewn. Okay, so where is this going to fall? Yeah, that's gonna fall right at the edge of where I clipped it in the last video. With the pattern pieces have the markings on it and I just transferred them. So the button band isn't going to fold all the way to the edge here, so it's actually going to have some seams that go on the neckline too. So flip this down, then flip. So I'm actually going to do something about ironing this down, because sometimes when I say things out loud, I'm like, is it really going to work out that well? I don't know. So I'm going to iron that down, and then you'll probably see a quick time lapse of sewing the collar all the way around. I should I realized I should probably show this, because in ironing the button band down, it's going to require the bottom edge turned under as well, which means I should do the bottom band at the same time. So this will only be half size, but I am putting the seam allowance under for when I do the hand sewing. And then this will be the edge that's sewn to the outer shell here, and then top stitched like this. So since I already pinned the collar to the top of the neck, I will iron everything that I need to, and then we can put a couple things on and then actually do some stitch. The back of the neck, and then to the sides, and now they match up pretty neatly. Pinning more is a good idea, and again, only through the layer that's actually getting sewn down. And this is why I have pins floating around everywhere. No huge wrinkles. What's that? Okay. There we go. So I should probably do then this side first, which means flipping around for the bottom edge. So I'm gonna do pretty much the exact same thing, where I fold everything in half and then fold the piece in half and pin it starting at the middle. And in other videos I've mentioned that even though this isn't a stretchy fabric, it does have some give. So if it's very, very slightly off, it can still make it work, such as when I put the collar around the corners, it still has some give to it, but not like a knit fabric. So I'm gonna do that and come back. Okay, so we have the basics of the collar, flipped right side out so you can see where it goes. I did end up kind of finger pressing these in line with the collar, because down here things definitely don't match up. So this needs to roll over and then roll over, and then there's a little bit of seam allowance that's also gonna roll over and into there, which all in all, it keeps the, as long as there's no wrinkles in the edge, it keeps the nice straight lines that I was going for. It's gonna get flipped over here and pinned, and oh, I misspoke. It's not gonna get sewed down, but I do have the lining right there, which I'm sure there is a better way to do this, but the original pattern, it's hot out, don't judge me. The original pattern did not have a lining, so basically what I'm planning to do is just line up everything and pin it at the seams and make it work. So here we go. Okay, this is definitely gonna bork the pockets because the pockets were about that wide, but what I think I'm gonna do is go ahead and, well, go ahead with it and put the lining in and everything, and at a later time, take the pockets out, sew this down, and put in like welt pockets over here. Pockets is precious. So I go on, oh, that doesn't. Okay, just a little bit of mess. A little bit of wrinkles and overlap there, but since it's on the inside, I definitely don't mind it. And because, as you saw, the back is gonna be a hole. This thing, I'll probably just, if it comes out or needs reinforcing, I can just hand sew it in black, something like that. This is not meant to be like, oh, here's how to be like super professional. Here's how to get some stuff done. Here we go, and then, oh, there we go. You can attach it to the back. So shoulder seams, and then side seams, and we'll be back. Okay, so this is what I mean by finagling. All right, take this lining, because this is a copy of the outside, give or take, but it's the same size. So take the lining and put it right up next to the seam allowance here, and then curl the seam allowance under, and go like that and pin it. And then when I top stitch, it'll lock everything in place, and I'm actually running low on pins, so I'm going to do this first before doing pretty much anything else. Always align the seams rather than the edges, because this, like I said, this isn't exactly the same, but the seams are the same. So I went from the shoulders out, and then I'm doing the middle here. And find the seams again and match them up. And the seam allowance is going toward the body in this stuff. And I need both hands, but right, so I don't actually know where my tripod is, so I apologize for the shaky cam for a hot minute. But the top and the armholes are done. Stitches show up on the outside, but I'm planning on some embroidery, and it's going to be a patch collection anyway, so I don't really mind it. Here's the plan. Microphone. Here's the plan. I tried it on, and the sleeves are actually pretty good length. You just need to make sure it fits the sleeves there. So I'm gonna cut it off about like, hold up. So instead of cutting it off right even with the cuff piece, it's gonna be kind of like that, so that it comes out essentially the same size. And there is a split in the seam that I can't really show you right now, but I'll try it on again when I have the cuffs on there and show you all that. I will find the seam ripper and rip it back so that there is a split seam and I can button it together. And that is essentially the same process as, oh, that might have been loud. Same process as the collar there. Sewing one side down and then flipping it over and then top stitching. To actually talk in this clip, because if you're trying to do welt pockets on the fly like I am, I think this was a mistake, but I'll get to that later. But so you may think that the inside pieces of the pockets can just match up exactly, but there will be a little bit off, equal to the seam allowance of this and this. So what you want to do is straighten it out in the front, so there's going to be a little bit of a gap there, and then pin it on the back. I'll show you what I mean in a second. I still haven't found my tripod. Okay, so what I essentially did is made sure that all of these were flush against, like it wasn't bubbling up like that, just to make it fit on the back. So pull it flush against the seam, be a little bit of a gap, and then on the back pin it down. And if you are also like me, just kind of using the rest of your fabric, you will notice the gap there. You can trim it before you pin the rest. Right, so the welt pockets were actually okay with the slits here, but I think partially because the shape on the inside is a little bit weird, it puckered a lot. So I'm actually going to pop some seams here and then do some embroidery on the sides. Probably not in this video, but you'll see it in the future. Because this is meant to be something that I repair over time anyway, because it's mine, but these weren't actually in the pattern, so I am pleased with how they are turning out anyway, because I just felt like putting them in now rather than having to go back at some point to do this and like rip the bottom and, rip out the bottom and everything. Yeah. Okie dokie, on to rest of the lining, I guess. I'll try to make this brief, because if you have been watching my videos, you know how hard that can be for me sometimes. But also, I do all of this on my phone as a reminder, and I take a lot of photos. I still definitely need to keep up with some of the hand sewing, and I turned all the raw edges under because, no shade to anybody else who has like the super crunchy jackets, but that's not really my thing. I like organic, but I don't like feeling like things are gonna fall off of me. There is also, because as I was putting on patches, there was more and more glaring mistakes that you can't see in a video. You probably wouldn't notice unless you were standing around me for a very long time. There will be things covered up, and I happen to have just the thing. There's also, I poke around on Pinterest on occasion, and I have been suggested like some, I think they're probably stainless steel and probably high fashion, something weird like that, but little shoulder cap kind of things that I have the audacity, and I keep telling myself, oh, I could make those, I don't know how yet, but covering up little mistakes that would bother me over time. And I made the mistake of actually making this in line, because I don't think the pattern was like that, because if you go like that, there's nowhere for the buttons to go. But since you've seen in other videos, I do like kind of a mandarin color style where everything meets just so, and there's toggle buttons. That'll be adding another strip so that when it closes, there's no gaps between the buttons, and then learning something new, I guess. And that's kind of the point of a lot of the channel, is there are things that I know how to do, but I haven't done in a way that I find meaningful, and it just adds more meaning to presenting it to somebody else, because I want to inspire traditional skills and non-traditional thinking. This video didn't come out when I was hoping it would, mainly because I'm working on a lot of my other work, business, and the internal screaming that comes with that. So I appreciate anyone who got to this point in the video. If you'd like to see more, I suggest a like and subscribe. It lets me know specifically what people are into and what I can go into more detail on. Because I also have a unique way of learning, and when I look something up, there may be thousands of tutorials and videos and things, but if it doesn't feel quite right, I will completely dump everything I supposedly learned. If there are also other patch makers, whether you or someone you know or somebody else, I would love to have a look, because I can't really buy a ton right now, but my wish lists are miles upon miles long, and I do get to them eventually. My goal is always to post twice a month. That isn't always on a regular basis. It might be together, it might be a couple weeks apart, but in the queue is always 2 videos a month. And earlier there was a very nice lady who asked what I was photographing, and I think it, I don't want to say shocked, but it kind of prompted me out of the awkwardness of, like, I like how this looks in the forest. It's not just for how it looks, because it's also, it's been raining, and it's semi-waterproof since it's duck canvas, but yeah, thank you for being here. It teaches me that, yes, I'm a weirdo, but my brain has been wired over time to expect certain reactions, and I do get that from time to time, but much like this lady who came through, kind of put one more pebble in the bucket of it's fine. So I'm gonna get back to hand sewing and a million other things I always need to do every day, and I will see you in the next video, which I have already been filming.